Hey everyone, it's Daphne from Scrap and Create. We're going to continue working on Farmhouse from Graphic 45, and this is page 3. Page 3 is a nice simple page. We're going to have two large flaps. You're going to have an 8.5 by 7 and an 8.5 by 6. And you're going to score a 1/2 inch on the 8-inch sides. So you're going to score a 1/2 inch on the 8-inch side for both of these flaps. So 8.5 by 7 and 8.5 by 6. They're going to get adhered to the outside edges of the pocket page. I'm going to, this is page 2, this is page 3, so I'm going to put the large flap toward the spine and the smaller flap toward the outside edge of page 3. Okay. Here we go. Okay, I'm going to burnish this and then we're going to get it placed on the edges. Okay, so the spine side, the pocket side, I'm going to center this flap. And I'm going to go ahead and mark my center line. So this is 8 inches tall. And I'm going to use a little pencil here, and I'm just going to put a tick mark. Here's my center line. And now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to make a little mark on the center of this flap. And I'm going to line those two up. Hard to see probably from where you're at, but there's a little pencil mark here and one here, and I'm just going to marry those two things up. Again, I'm installing this on the spine side, which is the left-hand side of page 3. Okay, there we go. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put a center mark. Then I'll find the center mark on my flap, and I'll line them up. Sorry. Okay, now this is the hinge side. I'm looking for the center. Okay, now I'm going to line it by 2 little dots. That makes it super simple. There we go. Okay, so this is page 3. Okay, so again, we've got an 8.5 by 7 and an 8.5 by 6, and that's page 3. Okay, I'll be back with some decorator paper. Hey everyone, it's Daphne from Scrap and Create, and today we're going to continue working on Farmhouse, and what I've got in front of me here, and what we're looking at is page 6. So page 6 is a pretty simple page. It's just got 2 flaps, one on the left and one on the right. And I'm excited because I'm going to use the chipboard as the closure for this. So if you recall, when we put these flaps in, we did not use any magnets. And my plan is to not use magnets here, but to use the chipboard in an interweaving way to close the features. So I have trimmed these components out, so they should be ready to go. But I haven't trimmed the inside pieces to fit just yet. So I'm going to set those aside for the moment and focus on getting these pieces in. And I am going to use my contrast sheet to help us see what's going on here. Okay, that looks good. So let's get some glue on it and get it down. This is, I have to think, I'm pretty sure it's from the 8x8. The scale looks pretty small, but I'm not positive. Yeah, these are too small. So this is from the 8x8, and it's just trimmed down to fit. And I made the mistake of trimming it the wrong way, so my hearts are going up and down, or side to side instead of up and down. It's a pretty small pattern, so I'm not terribly worried about it, but if you're gonna use it, pay attention to the orientation of the hearts on the print, or flip it over so you can see the orientation from the back side. So I got all that excess glue, dang it. There we go. So that's in. Lovely. Okay, the next one is this piece, and it's going to go like so. And if you recall, well, you probably don't, but anyway, page 7 is going to pull these patterns in as well. So I'm going to do a little test with these chipboard pieces to see if I can accomplish what I want to before I put the liners in, the B-sides in, because if it doesn't work the way I hope it does, then we still have an opportunity to add magnets to this page to keep it closed. So here's what I was thinking. And I'm starting to rethink it now. I'm not sure it's going to work. Yeah, it's not, or it's going to be difficult. So my plan was to have part of this glued to the top panel, the second half to the bottom, and then when you close it, you would interweave it, but because of the length of this flap, I think that's going to be a really difficult thing to accomplish. Yeah, so I think I'm still going to use the chipboard on this page, but not as a fastener. So I'm glad I kind of talked myself through that. So that means we do need 2 magnets for this. And if you haven't laid down your designer paper, typically I would have put my magnet here and the other one on the top, but instead it's going to go on the back side. It still works. It's just not what I normally would have done because I like to have as few layers of paper between the magnets as possible. I probably would have put it right here on the top. Instead, I'm going to apply it right here on the back and then locate the magnet on the other side. There's one, so then we're going to drop it here. There. I'm using larger magnets, they're not required. I ran out of my small magnets. So you can use either one. There, okay? So there, that's located. All right, well I'm glad I talked myself out of that because I would have been unhappy with the way it closed. But I do still like the idea of this chipboard. So I'm gonna think about this a little bit, but I think I kind of want it offset a little bit just so it's almost like a way to lift the flap. And if I do that, I'm going to want to put something on the back side to mask the chipboard color. So you could either color it with a Sharpie or put some paper on it. I think I like it with the frame, so I'm thinking I'm going to go ahead and back it with some black cardstock before I apply it. So I'm going to set it aside for the moment, and then we'll get started on the inside, which are these two pieces. So I've got the plaid and the red, and I'm going to lay down the solid piece, the smaller of the two pieces first, as usual, and then trim this to fit. Got a little heavy on the glue there. Okay, now let's go ahead and figure out where to trim this. Double check that. Yeah. Oh no. Wow, I put it in my trimmer and it's not straight at all, so I'm going to double check my marks. Because I'm shifting, that's why. All right, I cut it straight, but it doesn't look like it's gonna, I think I put this in crooked. That must be what it is, yeah. Because you can see there's less of a gap here than here. So I'm gonna lay it into my trimmer just slightly askew so that visually it'll look straight. To compensate for the fact that I laid that in crooked. And so the way I achieve that is, and see now it looks straight, is I knew this corner looked right. So when I put it in the trimmer, if this is the edge of the trimmer board or where the blade's gonna run, I'll lay this corner down on it and then I'll push this corner past it. And so I'll cut it at that slight diagonal. So that's how I achieve that. It's not an easy thing to do, and you have to be careful because you can't rely on pushing the paper up against the rail of the trimmer to hold it in place. You actually have to hold it with your hands. So it's very easy for it to torque while you're running the rotary over it. It's achievable, but you just have to make sure you have a good hold of the paper itself so it doesn't torque in the trimmer, because normally you want it resting against the top of the trimmer when you run the blade. So you just have to make sure, like I said, you have a good handle on it. Okay. Okay, I'm happy with that. Okay, that's in. Whoops, almost spilled my orange juice. Okay, that's in. it up. I can already tell it's not grabbing as much as I'd like it to. Yep, I just want to make sure that the magnets were actually lined up, and they are. I was just doing a test. Okay, now we're going to add another layer of paper to the inside. And here is what I have. I have these milk cartons, which are kind of fun. Okay, it looks good. All right, well, did a little bit of running around today. Had to do some errands. Still trying to, as much as we can, stay home. It's getting kind of old. Okay, I'm looking for my pick tool. I don't see it. Oh, but I know it's here because I didn't move it. There it is. It was upside down. All right, there we go. I'm liking the way that turned out. So my plan is to have the small flap overlap the larger flap. And then we're going to use this chipboard piece just kind of as a lift point. So I'm going to find some scraps to put on the back of this, glue it into place, and hopefully I've got, only part of it's going to be exposed. So I think I'm going to use this, instead of just flat black, I can use a pattern. And so I'm looking for a scrap that will go with what's inside. So let me see. And I want to use a small scrap because I don't have a lot to choose from anyway. So maybe I'll use this one. Yep. Let me see if I've got something even smaller that I can utilize instead of cutting through this. Nope, that looks like about the smallest one. So I'm gonna go ahead and glue this down like so, and then I'm gonna trim around. Actually, is that what I'm gonna do? No, I'm gonna trace it first. And trim it and then glue it down. Oh. I dropped my ink pad on my paper and it left a mark. And I keep telling you how it doesn't do that, but this is a brand new one, so it's pretty juicy. Okay. I'm just going to free cut. Okay, let's see how we did. Pretty good, but it's actually a little bit, it's pretty darn close. Just checking to see if I need to cut off any excesses, and it's pretty close. So I'm gonna go ahead and glue it on, and then come back and trim off anything I need to, probably with an X-Acto knife, or you could even file it down. So I'm going to go ahead and put glue all over the back of the chipboard and lay that paper down. Make sure you're generous, because chipboard's very thirsty and you don't want your glue to dry before you've slid your piece of paper into its spot. And then I'll come back and add the centerpiece. Which, by the way, you don't need. You could even just leave it as is. Okay. I can see I need to trim a little here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Pretty easy. All right, clean up. And then I am going to use this, so I'm going to go ahead and you can pop it or glue it down as is. And since I have the opportunity to pop it, I'm going to. So that means I'm going to trim out a little piece of chipboard that I have left over from when I made the album cover. And I like the chipboard because I like my dimensional features to be rigid. And I know card lovers love the foam tape, and I know why, because you can compress your dimensional element into an envelope, but you don't need to do that with an album, so I like it to be rigid. And it just gives a little bit more interest if it's popped up. There we go. And now you can see the back side is decorated. So even though it's going to hang off the page slightly, it'll still be attractive on the flip side. I'm just inking the trimmed edges. I had already inked the chipboard prior to backing it with the paper. I usually pop out my chipboard first thing and ink it as I'm thinking about how I'm going to design my album. Okay, so here we go. So I'm going to apply it here, and I'm just looking around to see how I want this to look. Honestly, I can't remember what the adjoining page looks. This is page 6, 7. What does page 7 look like? I think I'm going to have it off center, just like so. So I'm just going to have it be about halfway off. And about 1 inch up. And I'm going to use, because I can't find, oh here it is, my Tim Holtz ruler, and just see if it's level with, at least level with the panel that it's on. And if it's not, nudge it into place. And it's level. I'm pressing it. So that looks lovely. There we go. And you can definitely still feel the magnet there. So that is the end of page 6. I'm very happy with the way that's turning out. I still think you've got plenty of space here to feature some photos. Even a 5x7, a large, is that 6? No, this is 7, this is 6. So 4x6 this way would work perfectly. Let's see, here's a 4x6. So something a little bit smaller than a 4x6. So 4x6 can work. Okay, everybody, that is the end of page 6. And I'll be back with more soon. Thanks everybody for watching. This is Daphne from Scrap and Create.